Pond water is also excellent, as you know, assuming the pond is healthy, and often it's got a lot of fish excrement and other biological life that really helps. And if you at all can have a pond on your land, or even a small one, even a little tiny, 10 square foot pond or 8 square foot pond, you can use, and it really is a good source of fertility that you can use in your garden. And a well, of course, and then of course the worst system is the public water system. If that's all you have, don't let me discourage you. By all means, get started and use it. But it is heavily laden with chlorine and fluoride, and talk to Harlan in the back. He'll tell you how awful the water supply is, and it's true. I mean, my plants don't respond well when I'm using the public water system. Water is so crucial. Now, if you live in an area where you have abundant and frequent rainwater, then thank your lucky stars. But that is not true here in Central Texas, and it's not true in most of the United States. Water is so important. So I'm going to give you a couple of slides. This is the rainwater collection system we built off of our barn, and it's massive. It's like 34,000 gallons. We went overboard. I do that. What can I say? My husband tells me all the time, "Hon, you're going overboard," and it's true. But even on every roof, this is a little chicken tractor, and it's only 3 foot by 7 foot, and we built a little rainwater collection system. Those PVC pipes there on the back. One of them is a container for the water, and the other one we used as a little collector. It's that little wire along the bottom there, and it goes to a float valve, so the chickens can have continuous water supply. But every roof, water is so important and so vital and becoming such a big issue everywhere. Okay, so how much water do you need? That's the next question. I mean, did you need to build that 34,000 gallon thing or what? So let's talk a little bit about that. And your three basic categories of the of how much water you're going to need is your household water. So your drinking water and your cooking and hygiene. In our family, we use about 50 gallons a day without a lot of conservation. We live out in the country. My kids may not be cleaner than some of the city kids, so you may use a little bit more. It's basically not a lot of water. Livestock, again, you're most likely going to be having chickens and rabbits, very small, maybe 1/10 of a gallon per animal, so not a huge amount. Even if you had cows, we have the miniature cattle, they only needed about 10 gallons a day, not a lot of water. By and large, the main use of your water is going to be irrigation, and that's going to be for your plants and your orchards, your gardens. So, how much are you going to need? We're still going to get to that. Now remember, I'm an engineer in recovery, and I promise you we will not get too technical. But this one relationship is one that's used over and over again, having anything to do with water. And we'll introduce you to it now. You'll see it again as you continue to develop and move along this path. And it's basically this: in 1 square foot of land, if you have 1 inch of rain that falls, you're going to get 6/10 of a gallon. Isn't that pretty neat to know? Yes, every square foot, when you get a 1 inch rain, you're getting 6/10 of a gallon. So if you have a 100 square foot garden bed, and another kind of a quick guideline, which is that most of your garden vegetables are going to want about 1 inch of rain a week. That's kind of what they expect. So, for a 100 square foot garden, you need about 60 gallons of water every week. So I really applaud the city of Austin, which gives away those 55-gallon drums and the little rainwater collection systems. And they're awesome. It's a great first step. But basically, that's only going to hold you over for a week. And as we all know here, a typical Texas summer, we have a 2 or 3 month drought. So, you really do need a lot of water to pull you through. And so now you can use these relationships of the 1 square foot equals 6/10 of a gallon per inch, and however many square feet of garden bed space that you have, to figure out how much water you're going to need approximately. Now the next thing is, okay, so you're talking about garden beds, but how much of that are we going to need? Can I do it in my backyard? Could I be totally, so do I need to buy 75 acres? I mean, where is the, how much land am I going to need? And the answer to that depends on, what your lifestyle going to be. and there's a lot of different ways to go at this whole thing about getting food. And one end of the spectrum is the hunter-gatherer, and I'd like to start out with this because this is the other scenario I get from the same guy who, after the other people, there's the ones with the guns that are going to come find me and shoot me and take my food away, and then the other ones are like, well, I'm going to take my rifle, my backpack, and I'm headed out to the hill country. I'm going to live off the land out there. I'm like, okay, sounds good. How much land would you need to sustainably support somebody in a hunter-gatherer lifestyle? And looking through the anthropological records, basically most hunter-gatherer societies used about 10 square miles per person. That is a lot of land. And you know, some bioregions are a little bit lusher, so you may get where you only need 5 square miles or 8 square miles. And some are a lot worse. Some of the desert regions you may need 12 or 15 square miles. But basically you need a lot of land, and also you need a lot of skills which we just don't have, like, you know, how to start fire from sticks, and how to set traps, and wild edibles, and the whole thing that goes along with it. So I don't want to discourage you from being a hunter-gatherer, but let's talk about the reality of it. And it's pretty easy to get that, because, you know, let's say you go out and you snare a couple of rabbits. Well, you've just hit on that breeding population. You need to move and let that population recover. And you've got to have this whole circuit of where you're going around getting things. And anyway, I don't think too many of us are going to be hunter-gatherers. So the other end of the extreme is as much agriculture as you can in the smallest space possible. And how much is that going to be? And we're very, very fortunate and grateful for a man named John Jevons, who in the 1970s developed the biointensive method, and he was very concerned about this same question. He said, you know, for somebody who has nothing, how are they going to grow their own food, and what is the minimum amount of land, and how can they do it with almost nothing? What is the minimal amount that you can grow in? And he's been researching that now for at least 35 years, and he's come up with a complete system, and it requires very few inputs. It's a vegetarian system, and I think part of the reason it's vegetarian, there's probably two parts. One is most of the countries where this is implemented, India, Africa, Mexico, you know, different places like that, they can't afford a rabbit, or they can't afford a chicken. I mean, we're talking people that have absolutely nothing. The other thing is it's a difficult thing to quantify anyway, but if you keep it all to the vegetable kingdom, it makes it a little bit easier to quantify and do the research. Also, by the way, it's optimized they've done most of this work in Southern California, although, as I said, it's been implemented all over the world. And this is the book, this is the Bible, How to Grow More Vegetables in Less Space Than You Ever Imagined. Kind of a bulky title, but so is Food Production Systems for a Backyard or Small Farm, so must go with the territory. But this Bible, it really is. I mean, every organic farmer that I know of has a copy of this. It's filled with the whole information on how to do the system, and then it has an unbelievable amount of charts and data in the back on yields that you can expect if you have beginning gardener, intermediate, or advanced, yields that commercial agriculture is producing, you know, what is typical germination rates for seeds, and spacing, and just a plethora of information. And for beginners, sometimes it might be too much information, but I highly recommend getting the book because it will be your companion for many years as you grow and develop in this journey. By the way, they've just put out a new DVD that covers the gardening method, the biointensive method, and it's a really good DVD. I highly recommend it. It just came out a couple of weeks ago. So what is the answer to how much land do you need? And John figured this out. It's 4,000 square feet of bed space. And when I say bed space, what we've laid this out here, you know, you need to walk between the beds. There's got to be rooms for paths and rooms for compost piles and stuff like that. So realistically, you're going to probably need at least, you know, 8,000 or 10,000 square feet. But this is if you wanted to have a totally self-reliant, complete system that was self-sustaining for one person. Now this is for, again, I remember I said it was optimized Southern California. They have 4 growing seasons. Pretty much here in Texas we have 4 growing seasons, but for people further up north, you know, if you only have a 6-month growing season, then you're going to need to double your land area that you need. And you know, if you're in Maine, you're going to need to quadruple it because you've only got a 3-month growing season, or Alaska, something like that. Thank God we're not there. I was looking at Maine as a place to relocate. I travel all over the place, so I'm so interested in if I were to move here, what would it look like? How much land would I need? What would be the strategies if I were, and Maine has a lot going on for it. There's a lot of organic farmers and a lot of people doing the back to the land thing. And I was looking at moving there or thinking about it until one January when they said it was 30 below zero. And I realized they meant below zero. Like, oh my God, I'm from Florida. That was horrifying. Forget Maine. So now, why did he go on a vegetarian diet? And again, I said probably because, you know, he needs to quantify it, and in a lot of places they don't have animals. But it turns out that animal products are, by and large, much easier to grow than vegetable products. And this has been my experience. And as I said, I've traveled, and I have traveled all over the tropics in Central America, Idaho, Utah, up in the Pacific Northwest, the Ozarks, Florida and the tropics there, and some in the northeastern states, although I'm avoiding Maine now. And everywhere I go, I was even surprised, even in the lush Central American tropics, they were saying, no, you know, it's easier to grow animal products here. It's just easier. You can move them into the shade when it's too hot. You can cover them up when it's too cold. They have a greater resilience. They usually eat grass and bugs and things. They just have a greater resilience. You don't need to have good soil for them necessary. So animal products are easier. The other thing, and almost more important than the animals themselves, is their animal wastes are incredible fertility. So they're really useful for that. Also, other products. So, you know, I'm totally getting into this sustainability thing. I'm like, wow. I don't want to import my clothes from China anymore. What am I going to do? You know, so I'm looking at how do you tan goat skins or buck skins or make wool? How do you felt? How do we make some of our basic needs from what we've got? And you know, I looked into growing cotton, and I think that's going to be pretty difficult. I'm not sure. I've got to do more research on it. But the animals provide a lot of other products, bones and feathers and skins. There's a lot more to it. Also, you know, and a lot of the vegetarians say, hey, you know, we shouldn't be eating animal products because it's competing with human needs, and that is absolutely true for the commercial meat production system where we're feeding those animals grain. But for us in our backyards, we're going to be choosing species that are either herbivores or insectivores and don't really compete with us. So you can totally have animal species that are completely compatible and not draining on human needs. Now, here's a picture of me in my garden, and that's about 750 square feet of bed space there. And I think the whole total area is maybe 1,600 square feet, something like that. This is not a completely self-sufficient system. I import some feed for the rabbits. I import some compost, and I definitely import hay, not only to feed the rabbits, but also as for mulch. But it's pretty good. I'm pretty happy with what I've got. But notice over here on the right, the most important thing, that's an 8-cage rabbit hutch right there. And who would like to know the secret to a green thumb? Yeah? Yeah.
Rabbit poop.
Yeah, rabbit poop. Actually, any kind of poop, you know, let's go for it. Yeah. More important than the rabbits is right underneath that rabbit hutch is a compost pile. And that compost is gold. In fact, I'll show you how important fertility is.